In the middle of a burning forest under a red sky, a woman ran, her breath heavy, her arms wrapped around something warm and trembling. Her name was Kara, once a decorated fighter pilot, now a nobody hiding on the edge of a forgotten colony planet. She did not look back, because behind her the fire roared like a beast chasing its prey, and above her the sky cracked with the thunder of ships. Raiders were burning, everything stealing resources, killing civilians. She had seen it before too many times, but this time it was different, because this time she was not running to fight, she was running to save. The creature in her arms was small, barely the size of a dog, its wings folded tight against its fragile body, scales glimmering like silver under the flames. It was a baby dragon, its eyes wide with fear, its breath shallow and weak. Kara did not know why she had stopped to help it. She had found it half buried in rubble near the colony's ruins, crying softly, a sharp metal shard in its side. Something about it had called to her. Maybe it was the way it looked at her, not like a monster, but like a child begging for help. She had used her last medpatch to stop the bleeding, thrown away her gun to carry it. Now she was running with no plan, no backup, only fire around her and death behind her. The trees cracked, the ground shook, a blast behind her threw her forward. Dirt and ash filled the air. She rolled to shield the dragon, her back burning, but she kept going, crawling, dragging herself, until the fire faded and the smoke thinned. She reached the edge of a ridge where her ship had been hidden under a camo net, torn and broken like everything else, but maybe, just maybe, it could still fly. She laid the dragon down gently, checked its wound, still breathing, not dead, not yet. She climbed into the cockpit, flicked switches, cursed the dead battery systems offline. She slammed her fist on the dash and screamed. No one answered. The sky above her glowed orange, then black shadows passed over her, fast and silent. She looked up and froze. 4 massive starships hung in the sky above her home. No lights, no markings, not military, not raiders. Their design was smooth, alien, unfamiliar. They did not move, they simply watched her like gods staring down at an ant. Her breath caught. She grabbed the dragon, pulled it close, whispered, "It's okay. It's okay." Even though she didn't believe it, the ships remained silent. No message, no warning, but something in her gut, twisted, told her they weren't here by accident. They had come for the dragon. She turned as the creature stirred, its eyes opened, glowing faint gold. It looked at the ships, then at her, and for a moment she saw something strange in its gaze, understanding, intelligence, memory, or maybe fear. It made a soft sound, and its chest began to glow. Light poured from it onto Kara's chest. The glow spread across her skin like veins of blue fire. She cried out and fell back, clutching herself. Pain and heat and something else filled her mind. Broken images, stars, maps, war, faces she didn't no, languages she couldn't speak. She gasped, and it stopped. The dragon collapsed unconscious, but still breathing. Kara sat there, shaking, eyes wide, heart pounding, her body still glowing faintly. She stood and looked at the starships again. They hadn't moved, but now one of them opened a hatch. Something dropped, a black sphere falling fast. It stopped just above the ground, scanned her with a blue light, and then spoke, its voice cold and sharp, "You have touched what belongs to the old code. Surrender it and be erased." Kara stood frozen, her lips dry, her mind racing. What is the old code? What do they want with the dragon? What had she just seen? She didn't answer. She turned and lifted the creature in her arms again, limping toward her broken ship. The drone hovered behind her, still watching. She reached the cockpit again, tried the battery again. This time the glow on her skin touched the ship systems, blinked once, twice, then came alive, power flowing where there was none. The dragon's glow pulsed. The ship responded. She looked at the sky. The 4 ships still watched, unmoving, waiting. She didn't know what would happen next, didn't know where she could go. All she knew was that something ancient had awakened, and she was now part of it. She climbed into the seat, held the dragon close, and whispered, "Hang on." Then the sky flashed white as the drone exploded behind her, and the ship around her began to hum with power, as if something deep inside had finally remembered how to live. Smoke still lingered in the sky as Kara's ship drifted low over the valley, her hands trembling on the controls. The baby dragon lay quiet in her lap, still glowing faintly. The ship's systems flickered and pulsed with strange energy. Colors she had never seen in any cockpit danced across the display screen. Symbols she couldn't read replaced the usual flight data. She tried to steady her breath, her mind racing. What had she done? What had this creature done to her? Why were they being hunted? The 4 ships had not followed yet, but she knew they would. They had spoken of the old code, and they had called the dragon it, not him, not a being, but an object, a weapon maybe, or something worse. Kara's ship shook as it pushed through the low clouds. The engines groaned, barely holding together. This was never meant to fly again, but somehow with the dragon's light it lived again. She needed a place to land, to think, to hide. She scanned the NAV. No colonies, no signals, no help. Her ship pinged a hollow mountain nearby, an old mining site long abandoned. If she could make it there, maybe she could hide for a while, figure out what the hell was going on. She guided the ship down towards the jagged hills. Sharp rocks jutted like broken teeth. Her landing was rough, skidding across gravel, the hull scraping metal, screaming, but they didn't crash. That was something. She powered down the systems, keeping life support running. Dim lights glowed inside as she sat in silence, her fingers running over the dragon's soft Scales it stirred, its eyes opened, meeting hers. There was something in those eyes, not just intelligence, but something deeper, something older than anything she could understand. The dragon blinked slowly, then it touched its head against her chest, and for a second her vision blurred. Stars exploded behind her eyes, maps again, paths through unknown systems wiped from official records, routes leading beyond charted space, and then voices, memories, pain, fire, a planet burning, and something that felt like sorrow. Kara gasped, and pulled away, breathing hard. She stumbled out of the seat, dragged open the cargo hatch, and stepped into the cool, dusty air of the mountain cave above her. The sky was dark, stars twinkled faintly, but no sign of the ships, yet she didn't trust the silence. It was too quiet. She walked to the cave entrance, looking out, trying to calm the storm in her head. Then she heard a low hum, of vibration in the air. The hair on her arms stood up, the sky shimmered slightly, and then a drone appeared, floating black and smooth, just like before. It hovered 10 feet above the ground, glowing faintly, and then spoke again. You are marked. The code has chosen you. Kara backed away, fists clenched. What do you want from me? She shouted, her voice echoing. The drone did not move. It said, the key must be returned to the flame. The creature is not yours to keep. Then it turned and floated back into the sky, vanishing into the dark. Kara stared at the empty air, her heart pounding. The flame, what did that mean? Was that who controlled the ships? Were they a group, a cult? The way they talked didn't sound like soldiers, it sounded like believers. The dragon stepped beside her, now fully awake. It looked up at the stars, then at her, then turned and walked deeper into the cave. Kara followed, flashlight in hand, deeper and deeper, until they reached a chamber with walls carved by ancient hands. Symbols glowed faintly across the stone, the same symbols she saw on her ship's screen. The dragon walked to the center of the chamber, sat still, and looked at her. Kara approached slowly, her flashlight dimmed, flickered, then died. The walls lit up instead, reacting to the dragon's presence. Images flickered across the rock, showing a great warships like gods tearing apart planets, creatures like the dragon flying through fire, some captured, some worshipped, and at the center of it all a door, a massive door in space sealed by light. The dragon let out a soft sound, and in the middle of the room a hologram formed, a map of stars, and at the center her home planet burning again, just like in her memories. Kara's voice cracked. What are you showing me? What are you? She didn't expect an answer, but the dragon looked at her calmly, then reached out with its claw and touched the floor. The map zoomed in, showing 4 star systems pulsing with light, 4 places that had not existed on any known charts, 4 places connected by lines like veins pulsing with energy. And then something new appeared behind them in the sky. 4 ships returning faster, this time closer. Her ship's alarm blared inside the cave, red lights flashing. Kara turned and ran for the exit, the dragon close behind her. They reached the ship just as the sky split open, and the starships arrived, silent, black, and endless like death itself. And this time they did not watch, they moved closer, descending toward her, ready to take what they believed was theirs. Kara's hands moved fast across the glowing console as the dragon settled into the co-pilot seat like it knew what to do. The ship powered up with a sound she had never heard before, like metal breathing engines roared. The entire cockpit pulsed with that same strange blue light. The starships outside were closing in, not firing yet, just surrounding her like wolves around a wounded animal. She didn't wait to find out what came next. She pulled the throttle hard. The ship blasted out of the mountain cave, rising sharply, dodging one of the black ships that moved to intercept her. Alarms screamed as her ship skimmed the rocky cliffs, but the controls responded smoothly, sharper than ever, almost like the ship had learned to fly again with her. Kara gritted her teeth, pushing higher into the clouds above her. The sky was full of shadow and fire. The 4 ships moved without sound, only purpose. She needed to escape, to disappear. She checked the NAV again. Those strange symbols from before were still there, pulsing slowly, one brighter than the others. A system she didn't know, didn't recognize, no name, no data, but something inside her pulled toward it like a memory that didn't belong to her. The dragon looked at her, then at the screen, like it wanted her to go there. Kara trusted that look more than any logic. She slammed the jump sequence, punched in the unknown coordinates. Engines screamed, time bent, the stars stretched thin, and then everything went black. For a second it felt like falling, then the stars snapped back, and they were somewhere else. Kara blinked, trying to breathe. Lights returned slowly. The view ahead showed a small dark star, orbiting a field of debris, floating like bones in space. The ship drifted forward, systems rebooting, then stabilized. The NAV pinged one structure nearby, a derelict station spinning slowly above the dead star, old, unmarked, but still intact. She approached carefully, docking clamps groaned as she connected to the airlock. Silence filled the cockpit. Kara turned to the dragon. Stay here, she said, though she knew it wouldn't listen. She stepped into the airlock, suit sealed, pistol ready, even if it probably wouldn't help against whatever she'd been running from. The door hissed open, darkness greeted her. The station smelled of rust and age. No lights flickered, only the faint sound of machinery, echoing like a ghost. She moved through the corridors, walls covered in strange growth like metal moss. Then she saw the first body frozen mid-step, eyes wide in shock. More bodies Followed some collapsed, others stuck standing as if time had stopped. Kara's breath caught in her throat. Something had happened here, something fast, and final. She reached the central control room, wiped dust from a screen, powered it with her wrist. Battery files loaded slowly. One folder caught her eye. Draken Protocol. She opened it. Images of dragons filled the screen. Scanned drawings, notes, medical data files showing human experiments, strange creatures fusing with machines, war logs referencing Project Flame, and one document that stopped her cold. It had her name, Kara Miles' birth date, military ID dated 20 years before she was even born. Her hand trembled. She backed away, confused, scared, angry. The screen blinked again, showing video logs. Her mother, a scientist, speaking into the camera. She's the key. She doesn't know yet, but the blood will respond one day. That day must come when the flame returns. Kara stared at the screen, her stomach twisting, her mind spinning. What had her mother done? What had she done to her? Outside, her ship's alarm shrieked. Intruder alert. Kara turned, ran back toward the airlock. The dragon was there, waiting, eyes glowing brighter than ever. It looked at her, then at the hallway behind her. Shadows moved, metal footsteps echoed. A figure stepped out, not human, not robot, something between skin, pale wires in its skull, its eyes hollow and burning. It looked at Kara, then spoke in a voice not its own. Welcome, child of flame, you found the truth. Kara raised her weapon. Get back, but it didn't move. It just stared, then smiled. The others are coming. You can't run forever, it said. Kara didn't wait. She grabbed the dragon, slammed the door shut behind her. Airlock cycling fast, she threw herself into the pilot's seat. The ship peeled away from the station as dark shapes began to emerge from the surface below. The station exploded behind them. Just as the jump drive kicked in, Kara closed her eyes as light swallowed them again. She didn't know where they were going, only that the past was chasing her, and the future was something worse. The jump ended with a violent jolt. Kara slammed forward against her harness as the ship dropped out of light speed into complete darkness. Her breath caught in her throat. There were no stars, no planets, no visible light outside, only black space stretching forever, as if the universe had forgotten to exist here. Systems flickered, barely stable. Her ship drifted forward, engines humming low, almost afraid to make noise. The dragon beside her lifted its head, eyes wide, pupils sharp and alert. Kara tried to scan the area, but the sensors gave nothing. No readings, no data, just static, like the ship was blind. She checked the NAV, still nothing, not even a name for the place they'd landed. In her fingers hovered over the controls, debating whether to jump again. Then a low signal blinked, faint and weak, an automatic beacon repeating one word, station. She zoomed in. The display showed a small object hidden deep in the blackness, a structure slowly turning like a forgotten relic. Kara guided the ship toward it. Carefully, her nerves tight, the darkness pressed in around them like a thick fog. They passed through a magnetic field. A chill ran through the hull. Lights inside flickered for a moment. The dragon let out a soft growl, low and uneasy, as the station came into view. Kara's heart sank. It was massive, far larger than it looked at first glance, ancient, made of broken pieces of ship's metal welded together around a black core like a parasite made from war. Kara docked the ship slowly. The clamps locked. The airlock sealed. Her fingers hovered over the panel. The dragon placed its paw on her wrist. She looked at it, and it gave a small nod, like it understood the danger better than she did. She stepped into the station airlock door, groaning, open into a long corridor lined with lights so dim they looked like dying stars. The walls were marked with strange carvings, not letters, not pictures, something in between, symbols that shifted slightly when she stared too long. The silence was thick, heavier than normal. Her boots echoed against the floor like she was walking through someone else's memory. Bodies appeared again, but different, not frozen like before. These were turned to ash against the walls. Shadows burned into metal, as if something had flash fried them in place. She moved carefully deeper into the station, guided by faint beacons. One door led to a room filled with floating data cubes, ancient files suspended in air, untouched for what felt like centuries. She reached out. One cube drifted toward her, scanning her face, then activated. Images of war filled the space, battles that looked like myths, entire worlds burning, dragons flying alongside ships, some fighting, some being hunted. She saw familiar ships like the ones chasing her, but painted with fire symbols, their name displayed in broken text. The silent flame. Kara whispered the name, tasted like poison. The dragon growled softly, confirming her fear. She saw records of experiments. Children bonded to creatures, some survived, most didn't. One name came up again and again, Miles' family bloodline. Project Flame. Her name again, not as a pilot, but as a designed variable part of something ancient. Something restarted. Her hands shook. She backed away, turned around, and froze. A door behind her was now open. It hadn't been before she stepped through, and the room beyond pulsed with faint blue light. At the center stood a dark figure, tall, unmoving. It looked like a statue until its head turned and eyes blinked. Open, dim and hollow. You came, it said. Voice deep, metallic, not hostile, not kind. I was told to wait for you. Kara aimed her weapon. Who told you that? It looked at her, then the dragon, then back at her. The captain. He waits for you in the core. He says you carry the last key. Kara narrowed her eyes. What key? What are you talking about? The figure stepped aside. A lift behind it opened, silent, ready. She didn't move at first, but the dragon walked in without fear, like it had done this before. Kara Followed heart pounding. The lift dropped down fast. Deeper into the dark through layers of broken systems and silent halls. Finally, it stopped. The doors opened, and she stepped into a chamber, unlike anything she had ever seen. Stars glowed on the ceiling, not painted, but real windows to some unknown dimension. A man stood at the center, or what was left of one, half machine, half human, glowing faintly, his face covered by a cracked mask. He turned slowly, and spoke. "I am Captain Vorn, and I know what you are." Kara pointed her gun, not sure if she could shoot, or if it would matter. "What am I?" He stepped forward slowly, not threatening. "Only certain blood can bond with the Draken key, only your kind can stop the flame, or awaken it again, and you, my dear, are the last." Kara stared at him, eyes wide, her mind racing. Then the station shook. Alarms wailed outside. Something had found them again. Kara spun toward the lift. The dragon roared softly, ready to run again. Vorn stepped back into shadow, and said calmly, "If you leave now, you may never find the truth. If you stay, you may not survive at all." Kara stood frozen in the glowing chamber, her breath shallow, the weight of Vorn's words sinking into her like cold iron. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the deep rumble through the station reminded her there was no time. The silent flame had found them again, just like Vorn said they would. The walls shook, dust falling from above, lights flickering in warning. The dragon growled low and steady, standing between her and the door, ready to protect her. Kara looked back at Vorn, half man, half machine, his eyes dim behind the cracked mask, and something about him didn't feel like an enemy, not yet at least. She lowered her weapon, voice tight. "What do you mean, stop the flame, or awaken it? What am I?" He moved slowly toward the glowing map at the chamber center, raised his hand, and the lights shifted, showing a history not of planets, but of wars long erased from records in the old days. He said, "Before your kind reached the outer rings, there were creatures like the one beside you. They weren't pets, they weren't weapons, they were guardians tied to the pulse of the galaxy. Their bond with sentient beings gave balance to a system too vast to control. Then came the war, and man tried to turn guardians into weapons. The dragons became keys, living codes, able to open machines that should never have existed, machines of destruction powered by stars." Kara watched the map change, showing systems being swallowed by energy, torn apart by light. The dragons screamed as they were harvested, their minds cracked, their bodies fused with engines. Some fought back, others were lost. Then came silence. The guardians vanished, the war ended, and the survivors made a vow, a protocol to hide the keys, lock them away. The Draken protocol. Vorn turned to her. "You are the result of that last effort. Your family, bound by code to one of the last keys. That dragon you carry is not only bonded to you, it is synced to your blood. It makes you the final gate." Kara staggered back. The dragon pressed its head to her leg, calming her, steadying her breath. "Why didn't I know this? Why now?" Vorn's voice was cold. "Because the key wasn't ready until it found you, and now the flame has found you too, and they will not stop. The silent flame do not want peace, they want the old power, the full power of the keys, the dragons, the weapons. They call it cleansing, rebirth." Kara clenched her fists, looking at the images, burning stars, broken ships. The cult had been waiting, and now they thought she was the missing piece. The station shook harder. Now metal groaned, warning lights flashed. Vorn stepped to a control panel, placing his hand over a long-dead reader. Systems came alive, ancient doors unlocking. "I can give you a way out, a path through the ghost lanes to a world where the first vault still sleeps. If you reach it before they do, you can shut it all down." Kara looked at him, narrowing her eyes. "And if I can't, what happens then?" Vorn didn't answer, just stared. The silence told her enough. She turned to the dragon, knelt beside it, and whispered softly, "You okay?" It nodded once, and she could feel the fire beneath its scales growing stronger, like it was maturing, changing. Not a child anymore. She stood, grabbed the coordinates from Vorn's console, and ran. The station's tremors now constant. She didn't look back. Vorn called out behind her, "One last warning. Once you unlock the vault, it will ask you one question, and you must choose carefully." Kara didn't ask what the question was. She had a feeling she'd know when the time came. She sprinted back to her ship, systems already hot, engines preparing. The second she sealed the hatch, the station's power grid surged and died. The last light flickered, and then went dark behind her. She launched upward, just as parts of the station began to collapse, imploding into the void. The silent flame ships appeared on the edge of radar, too late to stop her, but close enough to chase again. Her ship tore through space, running on borrowed time, her eyes fixed on the new system glowing on her screen. The dragon sat beside her, calm, focused, older than it had been before. They said she was the last gate. Maybe that was true, but she didn't feel like a hero. She felt like a fuse waiting to burn, and somewhere out there a vault waited, and inside it was a choice big enough to break everything. The vault's coordinates pulsed on Kara's screen like a heartbeat, steady, cold, unreadable. The system ahead was unlike anything she'd seen. Its star was fractured, surrounded by rings of dark debris glowing faint red like cooling metal, as if it had once exploded, and then somehow frozen mid-death. Her ship exited light speed with a sudden jolt, alarms flickering momentarily before stabilizing. She gripped the controls, eyes scanning the void around her. No signs of life, no ships, no signals, yet she knew They would come, they always came. The dragon shifted beside her larger, now its wings folding neatly against its sides, its gaze locked on the glowing vault marker ahead. It didn't speak, not with words, but Kara felt its urgency deep in her bones. The vault was below, embedded within the crust of a moon-sized rock. Drifting near the broken star scans showed a sealed structure, ancient, unreadable tech buried under miles of jagged rock and tunnels. Kara guided the ship to land, the docking clamps digging into hard, uneven terrain. Dust and silence welcomed them. As the hatch opened, Kara stepped into low-gravity boots crunching against stone. The sky above was a deep black, the broken star giving off just enough light to cast long shadows. The entrance to the vault was marked by monoliths, tall and cracked symbols carved in circular motion, the same language that had followed her since this all began. The dragon moved ahead, unafraid, as if it had walked this path long before her. Kara followed, pulse rising. The monoliths began to glow as they passed, reacting to the dragon's presence. The ground shifted with every step, unlocking something ancient, something watching from beneath the stone. Finally, they reached the door, not a door in the human sense, but a wall of light embedded in rock. Kara reached out, hesitated, then the dragon placed its claw against it. The light rippled, parted, and revealed a dark path leading down. Kara entered without looking back. The tunnel pulsed with old power, the walls alive with flowing energy like veins glowing with blue light. She didn't know how deep they traveled, but it felt like falling into the center of a forgotten planet. At the end of the tunnel was the vault, a chamber larger than any ship she had ever flown. Ancient machinery lined the walls, spirals of metal and stone spinning slowly around a platform at the center, and on that platform a single pedestal glowing. Kara approached slowly, her breath catching as the dragon climbed onto the platform and sat still. The room responded, lights rising, sounds echoing like whispers in languages too old to name. Then the voice came, not loud, not soft, but deep inside her mind. You have brought the key. Kara stepped closer, trying to speak, but the voice continued without pause. The gate is ready. Choose, will you awaken the forge, or silence it forever? The dragon turned to her, golden eyes steady, unblinking. Kara's heart pounded. She didn't understand what the forge was, but deep inside she knew it meant power, the kind of power that could destroy planets or save them, the kind the silent flame would kill. For behind her the warning alarms triggered. Her ship detected multiple warp signatures. They were here, the cult, the black ships descending like shadows. Kara stood on the edge of something larger than herself, hand hovering over the pedestal. The dragon looked at her, and she saw it all in a flash. Fire, war, broken stars, choices made long ago, choices that had led to this moment. The forge was a weapon, a machine that could ignite entire systems or seal itself forever, cutting off the last path to that ancient power. She had the blood, she had the bond, she had the choice. Outside the vault the ground shook, missiles landing, cult troops arriving, echoes of battle reaching into the deep. The voice in her mind asked again, awaken or silence. Kara's hand trembled, her eyes locked with the dragon's. They didn't speak, but she knew it would accept whatever she chose, not because it was loyal, but because they were now one flame and fuse, bonded by something older than time. The ground cracked above, lights in the vault flared. The platform rose slightly, waiting. Kara closed her eyes, took one long breath, and made her choice. The vault responded with a pulse of pure light, shaking the mountain from its core, and outside the silent flames saw that the gate had opened or closed, but they would not know which until it was too late. The mountain split down the middle, light bursting through its jagged cracks like a second sunrise in the darkness of that broken system. As Kara stood at the heart of the vault, her hand still pressed to the pedestal, the ground trembling beneath her, the dragon beside her silent, but glowing brighter than ever. The choice had been made, and now the vault obeyed. Ancient machinery grinding to life, groaning like titans waking from stone. The ceiling peeled open in a spiral of moving metal, revealing the empty black sky above, and in it, descending fast, were the ships of the silent flame, their dark shapes falling like knives. Kara turned back to the dragon, eyes wide as energy swirled around them. The machine had accepted her blood, the forge had responded, but it hadn't revealed what would come next. The vault began to rise, carrying them toward the open air, a spire lifting them up like a final stage above the war below. Flames spread across the rocky fields. The cult troops had landed, fully armed, swarming the ground surrounding the vault. Ships hovered low, forming a blockade, but they didn't fire, not yet. The sight of the rising spire confused them, maybe even frightened them. Kara stood tall, wind whipping through her hair, the dragon at her side, wings spread and glowing, its body now massive, its eyes burning gold. She felt it in her chest, a connection alive and blazing, her thoughts clearer than ever, as if the vault had burned away the fog of fear. A voice, not the vault's, not the dragon's, but her own, steady and rising, echoed in her mind. You are the key. The flame and the fuse above them, the largest of the four cult ships, descended slow and deliberate, its hull covered in glowing marks like sacred text from a forgotten time. A voice broadcast from it, through every speaker and channel, child of the broken code, we offer you one last mercy, surrender the key and become fire. Kara narrowed her eyes, scanning the cult ships for weakness. They had Power numbers tech, but they didn't have what she had. The dragon roared, the sound so loud it cracked the stone below, and the sky responded, clouds swirling, stars flickering. Something ancient was stirring, not just in her, but in space itself. The vault spire locked into place at its peak, a beam of energy fired into the sky, a signal, not just a weapon, a message sent across systems unknown. Kara didn't know where it went, only that it had to be heard. The cult moved fast, drones launched missiles, targeted, but the dragon leapt into the air, wings wide, its body wreathed in flame. It soared straight into the chaos, unleashing a blast of golden fire that tore through the nearest ship like paper. Kara climbed back into her ship, the systems now fully integrated with the vault's energy, the interface alive with symbols she now understood without knowing how. Her mind linked to it, like it had always been part of her. She lifted off, joining the dragon in the sky, dogfighting through cult fighters weaving between fire and light, her ship faster than ever, sharper, almost alive, as if the vault had upgraded it during the choice. She flew through a fleet designed to kill gods, and left them burning behind her. The dragon struck again, and again, a blur of light and fury. Kara focused on the flagship, the one that spoke, the one that called her child of flame. She locked missiles, primed plasma cannon, and aimed directly at its core. The voice returned louder, now desperate, not angry, but afraid. You don't know what you're doing. You will bring the silence. Kara didn't answer, her eyes locked on target, her voice calm. No, I'm ending your noise. The cannon fired, the missile followed, and the flagship cracked open from the center, folding in on itself, in a pulse of blue light, not fire, but collapse. The cult began to scatter, their formation broken, their belief shaken, their godship falling. Kara and the dragon flew together, circling once over the battlefield, making sure no one followed, no one survived. Who would bring this curse again? Silence fell at last, real silence. Across the ruined field below, the vault spire slowly lowered back into the ground, sealing itself once more, not destroyed, only hidden until needed again. Kara landed her ship next to the dragon, which had returned to the surface, breathing slow, its wings folding gently around its body. She stepped out, stood beside it, and looked up at the stars, still broken, still bleeding, but free for now. The forge had not unleashed destruction, it had sent a warning, a memory, a promise. The gate was not just a weapon. It was a guardian's voice calling across time, telling others the key had been used, the fire had passed, the flame had chosen, and the choice had been made. The stars were quiet now, like they had been watching the whole time, holding their breath, and waiting for the fire to either consume or protect. Kara stood at the edge of the crater, where the vault had sealed itself again, the stone around it still warm, the ground marked by the battle that almost ended everything. The silent flame had fallen, broken, scattered into the black. Their ships burned, their voices silenced, but the choice still echoed in her chest. The vault had responded to her blood, to the dragon beside her, but it had also changed something, not just around her, but inside. She could feel it. Every breath, every heartbeat was now tuned to something ancient, older than time. The dragon stood beside her, massive and calm, no longer a child, no longer needing protection. It had become something more, and so had she. They didn't speak, but she knew it was time to leave this place. The forge had done its part, and now others would come, not enemies, but seekers drawn by the signal she had sent. When she made her choice, Kara returned to the ship, the interface glowing softly, symbols flowing like language. Finally understood. The system was alive, not just the ship, but the navigation itself, reacting to her thoughts. She plotted a course, not to home, she didn't have one anymore, not to a colony or a base, but to one of the star systems she had seen in the dragon's memory maps, burned into her mind, places forgotten by the galaxy, places that still held pieces of the old truth. As her ship rose into the sky, she looked down one last time at the vault. The dragon flew beside her, its body casting long shadows across the broken land. The stars ahead were not peaceful, but they were hers now, free of the cult, free of command, just open sky and unfinished questions. The ship pushed through the atmosphere, breaking the silence of the dead system, and into the current of stars. Kara didn't know if she had saved the galaxy, or just delayed something worse. Maybe the vault was only one of many, maybe the silent flame wasn't truly gone, but she did know this: she wasn't running anymore, she wasn't a lost pilot hiding on a broken world, she was something new, something chosen, not by destiny or prophecy, but by choice. Her choice, and the fire inside her wasn't just the dragon, it was her will, her rage, her love, her loss. All of it burned clean, and left something stronger. The dragon turned its head toward her in mid-flight, its eyes glowing steady, a silent question in its gaze. What now? She smiled, not a full smile, but something close, the kind you give when you finally breathe after holding it for too long. She reached out, touched the console, and answered without words. The ship changed course toward the unknown, and behind them the stars began to flicker again. One by one, systems across the galaxy picked up a signal, old code, new pulse, a message carried in fire, not a warning, not a threat, but a truth. The flame had passed through one gate, and it had survived, and far away in the dark, in places not yet touched, Other vaults began to stir, faint lights blinking awake, as if they too had been waiting for her, waiting for the last key, waiting for the girl who saved a dragon, and lost everything and found herself in fire.